agenda. First, we have the minutes from the RGB full board meeting of Monday, August 14th. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay. Any discussion, questions, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
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 Second. Okay. Second, minutes from the RGB Policy Committee meeting on Monday, August 14th.
So moved.
Seconded.
Policy. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
payroll warrant. Delayed.
Yeah, wait a minute. Delayed.
Payroll warrant, 1,006, 1,008, and 5.
So moved.
Second. Any questions on the payroll? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 And finally, the vendor warrants, 1,005 and 1,007.
So moved.
Second. Any questions on the vendor warrants? Seeing none, all in favor? Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Cash flow is in your Dropbox. If you have any questions, you get in contact with the treasurer. Committee reports. So do you have any committee reports? Seeing none? Okay, action items.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Ken.
Go ahead.
I just want to announce that we did not meet policy today. I do want us to meet in October though, so any of you that have ideas for policies that we should prioritize, warning or what have you, please let Sandy and myself know, ideally before the end of the month. That way we can have them put on the agenda for a policy committee meeting next month. Thank you.
This is Mike, and we do have a list of a few things that we need to address, so we'll get that to you.
Leon,
Excellent.
I'll send you my copy of all the ones I'm doing at SBSU for this month, which is going to be tonight. But then you'll see those, and then the Vermont School Board Association just had a list that was in the paper. They had went through a whole bunch that you may want to look at to decide what you want to add on to the list. But there's a lot of them out there.
Thank you. Okay, the next thing is the CTSO nomination.
Take that? Okay, on the agenda, depending on the one you're looking at, there was 3 nominations. There are actually 4. We received one late on Friday afternoon. Do you want to take them individually and or all at once?
Whatever you.
All right, individually then. The first one, for reference, these are for our CTSO advisors for our clubs like Skills USA and ProStar, et cetera. FBLA, for example. These are yearly positions. They're filled by people internally from our staff. They just apply each year. We bring them to you each year as really a formality because there is a stipend attached to each one of them through the collective bargaining agreement. And so we're just bringing them here today for approval. Well, the first one is for Kristen Barrett for FBLA, that's Future Business Leaders of America, CTSO advisor. This will be her 4th year as the advisor. See the stipend there is $1,300 in change.
Motion?
I'll move it.
Second. Okay. Any other questions? Everybody should have that sheet from you. Okay, all in favor of Christian? Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next.
The next one on my list is for Chef Nick Delory for Culinary Arts for the ProStar advisor. This will be his 2nd year running ProStar. You see the stipend there on the contract is $2,400, almost $2,500.
So moved.
Second. Just a question, is there a scale like on a teacher salary schedule where people are getting paid for these jobs? There's a big difference between the two.
So there is a appendix C in the teacher's contract, and based on appendix C, each type of position is given a number as to what the salary would be. And then it's based on whatever the base salary for that year of the teacher's contract is. So we don't just randomly pick, it is set up in appendix C based on negotiation. So various CTSOs and clubs and activities have a different rating based on what they think the number of hours the advisor would put into the activity or club or sports. So like coaches are in that same appendix C. So that's what it's based on. It's based on where it falls in that chart. And it's based on a percentage of the base salary for the teacher's contract for that year. And then based on experience. So if they have 5 to 10 years of experience, they get a little bit of a percentage boost. If they have 10 plus years, they get a little bit more of a boost on that salary rating as well.
Thank you. Okay, we have motion and second for Nicholas. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The next time is for Jennifer Morgan Hall to be our Skills USA CTSO advisor. It's probably the one you're most familiar with, Skills. It's the largest organization that we have. Jen, this will be our 7th year doing that. You can see the salary listed there for that. It's about $1,900 per year.
I'll move it.
Move. Second.
Second, we have that. All in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And the last one we have is for Catherine Slade, and that's for our HOSA CTSO advisor. That's our health occupations organization. She's been doing this for 5 years. And the salary for that, as you can see there, is about $2,600 for the year.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Aye. Okay. Thank you. Policies for adoption. At our last meeting, we warned 2 policies. But this time we have to vote to adopt these policies. And I assume there are no changes in the policy, so I noticed we just received a fire and emergency preparedness drill policy for adoption. So can we have a motion?
Yes, that was good, yeah.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt 3,400C fire and emergency preparedness drill. Everybody should have a copy in front of them. This is not warning, it's an adoption. Okay, no questions?
Yes, I'd just like to know what has changed since the last time.
Is there any changes?
No, I mean, you mean from the original policy or from this one? It's just updated, it's mandated by the state that we have this fire evacuation policy in place. We've had them for years. This is just standard language that they want us to adopt. That's really all it is.
I'm just asking the public,
Yeah.
you know,
There's nothing, there's no major changes at all to our practices or policies, really.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting fire and emergency preparedness drill policy, raise your hand. Aye.
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 Now, what about 3410C, visitors management? Do we have that one ready to go yet?
They vote to.
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes, you wanted to drop 2 lines. That has been done. I don't have the finished policy in front of me. John Lamson has that in process, but it has been done. And that's what he asks, and we ask of you today, is to adopt the policy as you asked for it to be amended at the last meeting. And that would be in your minutes. If you go to your minutes of the policy committee, which you have, I could read that to you if you'd like.
that'd be great. Thank you, Sandy.
Okay.
Somebody would like to strike lines A and I under number 2 as self-listed collaborative with our
Yes, that's
That
not
was your
necessary
adjustment
with
made.
motions, that's from Johnson and Whitman, the committee unanimously approved this adjusted version to be brought before the full board for the next board, so for the meeting, for the adoption. So that has been done, I just don't have the printed copy in front of me.
So we're asking if you would adopt it today with those corrections from the minutes, we'll make sure that
Correct.
those are corrected.
If we do come to that, with motion,
Well, I need to have that copy sent to us. We can do it, but we need to see that copy.
Yeah, as soon as I have it, maybe I
Absolutely.
can forward it to the full board.
why don't we just table it, and just pick it up next?
It's supposed, I mean, yes, we can do that, it's in the process, but it's not good practice to say we want to do something and then have it show up and go into the works without having the board see the physicalness of it, either electronically or a paper copy, as well as having it available for the public to read and see wherever they have these things posted. It's just good practice to do, it's good to do what we need to be doing along that line. We can wait. That's what I think.
Leon, would you make a motion to table it then?
I'll move that we table this policy.
So I just,
We receive a copy, electronic copy.
Thank you.
yeah, so as a discussion point, these two policies were supposed to be adopted by August 1st. They did give an extension, understanding that some boards don't meet in August in the summertime. We are in September. Now they need to be adopted. They need to be adopted for state law, actually. So if we can adopt them today, I'll have the clean copy probably before we're done with the board meeting, but frankly.
Well, I didn't want to say too much out in the public besides that. Knowing all of this, when we started way back, that we were supposed to have these things in place, and we have been diligently working, trying to get them in place, it should have been in here today.
If they do come by the end, we can do it.
Yeah, good, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay.
We didn't vote.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
We had a motion and we didn't vote.
Table.
We don't have to vote on the table.
Yes, we do. Okay, all in favor of tabling this policy, raise your hand. Aye. Thank you. But we can come back.
Aye.
Thank you. Hold on.
I think too, just if I could offer like some context for the original change. It's a pretty clean amendment in general. Essentially, there's the VSBA model policy, and then it was proposed to add some language to it, to add additional language to the model policy, and all that the policy committee really recommended was that that additional language wasn't necessary. So we're just going back to the VSBA model policy is what we're proposing, so, yeah, it says we can just get that clean copy.
Yeah, I just emailed Mr. Lamson again to say we really needed it possibly before the end of the meeting. I know he's also in class, so there's.
I think what Leon's trying to do is, we don't want to set precedents like they did in Washington. Vote on the bill today, take the bill home and read it tomorrow. I think he's correct in that manner, that legally, that's the right way.
And I completely understand it should have been in there and it wasn't, it was our mistake, and, we'll move forward with it. So. All right, my turn.
Yes.
Again, so welcome to a new school year. We're in our third week here. Thankfully, the heat is sort of subsiding for everybody. We didn't have too much damage last week here at school, at least from the storms. I know the town was hit pretty hard. We were fairly fortunate here, a little bit of minor damage, but enrollment is good. I'll have a report for you for next month with actual enrollment numbers. The ad drop period just sort of ended and things are settling in place now. The majority of our programs, first-year programs, are at capacity. Our intro classes are definitely beyond capacity. And our year 2 classes are usual 8 to 10 students, which is normal for us. So we're very happy with that. A lot of building issues that have been being worked on, a lot of AC, HVAC issues, and things that are being addressed continually. I do want to thank the maintenance staff for the hard work this summer. It was a wet, humid summer, and wax does not dry very well during that, and the building is pretty humid in the summertime. So they had a really tough time getting things put together, but it looks really nice. So thank you to all the staff that worked on that. And I know I missed last month's meeting. I was able to review it. So I wasn't able to be here for medical reasons, but I am back. And I want to note these chairs are very comfy and they were free. So they are quite nice.
Looks real good today.
They look really good. So, not that we want longer meetings, but they are comfy. So I'm also happy to report to you that we finally received, not say finally, but it's processed our final approval actually on Friday of our federal Perkins grant, which is hundreds of pages of applications and lots back and forth. And we were awarded $305,000 this year through our Perkins grant, which primarily funds your math integration person. It involves around $70,000 or so of professional development this year for our staff, and involves support for our CTSOs, for advisor travel, and some miscellaneous other items that are in there that are required, that require these Perkins for, particularly through professional development programs and industry credentials. So there's a formula that the state uses that gets that number of 305 for us. It's based on, used to be free reduced lunches, but it's based on demographics essentially. So last year we received around 275. This year we were 305. So really nice. It is, for those that have been on board for a long time, Perkins used to be a lot easier to spend. We used to be able to spend a lot of categories on it. And as time has gone on and different revisions, it's become very difficult, quite frankly, to write the grants and actually spend the money, as I know Rebecca can attest to. And we're very, very cautious about the spending of it because we don't want to pay it back. We're found to not misuse it, but miscategorize something. We owe the money back to AOE essentially. So the nice thing about it though is not every school spends their entire allotment of their Perkins money for various reasons. And what often happens is early in the summer, before summer starts, this AOE will repool all those resources and offer additional grants to schools. So we have a chance to recapture some of that money in a different way, which is really, really nice. And one of those examples that I want to tell you today was that in, I believe it was end of June, early July, we were awarded through a grant process a $75,000 grant to our automotive program for what's called the EV Switch Lab. And we were one of the schools that we just didn't apply for because they were out of money. And I thought, well, we're going to, maybe next year. And so I heard from the Agency of Education and asked if we were still interested. And I know that Mr. Haskins was chomping at the bit to get that, but it just wasn't attainable with our local money. And so I did the application very quickly and got it in, and we turned around pretty quick. And he went for a week-long training up in Rutland. It was either Rutland or California, and we made the Rutland one. And basically, they were building a electric vehicle from scratch. All the parts for it, everything from the frame up. Concept was very, very intense. It could actually be sort of its own program almost, actually. I think the students are really, really going to enjoy it. It's everything from very complex wiring harnesses and the whole 9 yards. And I think the majority of tech centers are doing it this year with their students. And it's not just a one-time project. It has reusable kits and parts and things that we can use. So it'll be an ongoing yearly or multi-year project, which I think is awesome. We should be getting into that a little bit more. And we've talked about it as our tours through auto and strategies here. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, although there were a lot of parts to order. I know that. the PO was probably 30 lines long. So, but that was great. It's the last example of grant money that we wouldn't have seen no did yet. So, I feel very fortunate this year. It's $380,000 or so of grants that we've received. Happy to report that. I also want to mention an upgrade we did this summer in our fleet. Safety and security is always always in the forefront of my mind, whether that be visitor entry, camera systems, security systems, etc. We've had cameras on our buses for years and years. They were like, I would call them the old style SD card. They kind of pop in and they record. We've been talking about changing that for a long time, having a system where They're wireless and they upload automatically to a secure server here at school, et cetera. I'm not going to get all the details, but we did make that change this summer, so the entire fleet now has a different style camera system in them, and the data uploads here at school, and the vehicles are parked, so we have access to that without having to go into the bus, unlock things, dig into our card, and all that kind of stuff. So much more efficient, and that's been a long time coming. You'll also notice back in the entranceway here, it goes back to our access control and visitor management policy. We have to go back 2 or 3 years during COVID. We weren't allowed to have any of the stuff out there at the entranceway as far as signing. Everything was manual. And of course, it evolved as COVID evolved. We have to have a sign-in system back in place. We put our electronic system back out there, which we've had before, called Identikit, excuse me. So when you do come visit, that would sign in again there in the lobby. It's all electronic. It automatically checks databases and whatnot. You scan your license and check in. Students check in and out with it. It's the same system MAU adopted after we did a few years ago, so everyone's used to it. So just an FYI, when you come back in the building soon, that'll be the sign that'll be used so the public to know as well. That's really the major change in that's just reinstituting that digital sign system. So that's what I have for my report. Happy to take questions on any other topics that folks might have.
Would you like to speak a little bit about the executive summary?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I forgot about that. So in your Dropbox and the agenda I sent last night under the superintendent documents, there is a CTE 1-page study in there. We don't have to talk about it all today. I wanted you to take a look at it and digest it. I know Dane's very familiar with it, but I wanted just to give you kind of a heads up on this. Last year, I get the date wrong. Please help me here. The legislature contracted with a company called APA to do a study on career and tech education in the state of Vermont. Not our school, but the entire system of CTE in Vermont, and what it looks like. And they looked at primarily governance models and finance. And one thing that all the directors agree on is that the finance system is certainly, it worked when it was made 50 years ago, but it's long outdated and convoluted and complicated, as you all know. Particularly those who serve on the finance committee, it's complicated. So looking to streamline and change line that will impact everyone at some point, hopefully in a positive way. I know the general gist of that is that money's not going to follow the student anymore. That's the idea behind it. Tech will be funded differently. What that comes out to be, I do not know yet. That's soon to be decided. The bigger thing that really is a harder topic to talk about is the governance of CTE. And so there are currently at least 3 or 4 different models of governance in the state governing our tech centers. We have our model, which 4 other centers have, where there's a regional board like yourself. We have the autonomy, to set a budget, borrow money, all those things. You operate as a normal school board. There are 4 of those in the state. Springfield, ourselves, newly last year, Barry, Montpelier, and in Middlebury, those are the 4. The other systems, the other schools work on a model we used to have, which is they are hosted by their high school, and the regional governing board doesn't really have any authority. They're an advisory board only to the sub-board of the main board of the high school. That seems to work okay in some districts and not in others. And then there are at least 2 totally independent schools, Linden Institute and St. John's Wort Academy, which don't operate like any of the other districts. So they're really, Secretary French, before his departure, I know was very invested in trying to fix the system of CTE in Vermont. And the governance piece, really the discussion is focused around 3 areas. None of these have been decided. It's going to be up to the legislature, but frankly, in the AOE, the directors and superintendents have had input, but primarily they've talked about one statewide CTE system with 1 superintendent and multiple assistant superintendents and directors. That's one idea that's been floated out there and talked about. The other idea is for all the centers to become independent regional technical centers like 4 are. I don't know how much popularity that'll gain because that It's going to involve hiring more superintendents. So we'll see. And the last one that we've talked about is where the state would be divided into regions, perhaps 4 or 5 regions, where there'd be 3 to 4, 5 schools, tech schools in that region, served by 1 superintendent, and assistant superintendents from there. Very cursory discussions about that. I want to be very clear. There's nothing decided. There's not even been a roadmap made. These are recommendations by this APA study. And I know I've talked about it briefly before, but I wanted to put it the 1-pager in here for you to read in detail about what's being talked about at the state level for really impactful changes to CTE across the state. And no matter what gets decided at the legislative level in AOE, it will impact Southwest Ag and every other CTE center in Vermont. So it's a pretty big deal. I know that some of us are a little nervous about it, what that might look like. I think the intent behind it, I know the intent behind it is very good because the state sees the value in current tech ed and they see the barriers that are in place for it between transportation and money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And really trying to have better access, more equal access for students statewide to come to schools like ours, where right now they have problems all over the state, kids getting in just like we do for various reasons. So I just didn't want this to come as a surprise. I do know it's going to be taken up, I believe, this winter in the legislative session. Where it goes from there, I don't know. But I didn't want to be caught off guard by it any more than we're going to be. So I'm happy to try to answer questions about it, but the 1-pager is really gives a very good, it's 2 pages actually, a very good summary of the findings, recommendations on funding, as well as a priority of things that the legislature should consider from a easy standpoint to the most difficult standpoint, where they see funding as an quote unquote easy change. That'd be the very first thing. And the hardest change, number 10, is large system change, like different governance models. So some of these are certainly way easier to implement than others. It may take years, I don't know, for governance to be adjusted. But you should be aware of it. These are big topics.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Last year, after we attended the Vermont School Board Association, we were pushing for a lot of technical changes. How you turn to students, and concern about the money quality of the student and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of emphasis placed on that. And my question is, like, to you, in knowing all these things, what directions or what you think we ought to be pursuing and what emphasis we ought to be doing in terms of this technical center, because there is a urgent need and we can't just keep waiting year after year for these things to happen. We may need to be proactive in that area. So I'm looking for maybe what it is, and you may want to post, if you want to postpone the answer to that question to the next meeting, somewhere along that line, but I'm looking for some proactive movement in the area from this technical center.
Yeah, if you'll allow me to table my response on that, I think we have our local, we call it issues, our local pending things we need to take care of in our center. We've done a very good job of it, and there's things that we want to do. We've talked about expansion to other areas and different programming. I'm happy to do what I see is like, my 5-year vision of where we should be. But I just want the community to know, the public and the board especially to know that there are system-wide changes that are going to be coming and affecting us. And as soon as I know what those are, and of course, keep everyone apprised of that. But yeah, let me have a bit more thorough answer for you beyond next month, if you're okay with that.
Yes, I just wanted to put that out there because I like to move.
Yeah. Listen, the wheels of education being slow. If I had my way, we'd be doing a lot of other things. But there's a lot of red tape, so we have to weed through, unfortunately. Yeah, sometimes I fantasize if we just had free reign of what we could do. It would be fantastic. It's quite a dream, honestly. But we also, I do want to say that because of our board, previous boards, current board, et cetera, we are very fortunate at our center to have the support that we have from the community and the board, and we have a fantastic staff, as you know, and a fantastic program. And it takes a lot of hard work on everyone's part to make that happen. And we do it day in and day out. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, nobody is. But you should be very proud of our school. I know I'm very proud of what we do here. And students who attend here are happy to be here, happy to be about it. So, it's more to come on that next month. But I'll definitely keep you apprised of changes.
I'll also just add a bit, yes, things as far as the study goes and the idea of there being things that are covered by the study, financing and governance, and some things that I think a lot of us on the board and Mike was saying we would like to see change. And then there are also some recommendations that make us nervous a little bit, right? So to continue to hear the nuance and to communicate that to all of our delegation in the area being really important. But I also did want to just put out there that just because there is a study doesn't necessarily mean action will be taken, right? And so if there are changes that we do want, that needs to be put up because there's lots of things, lots of priorities in the legislature, and sometimes it doesn't always go through as quickly as it could.
Right.
In other
Right.
words,
No, that's a good point.
funding would happen first, and maybe 10 years from now.
For 20.
I don't gamble, so I don't know. So, I just roll the dice. But it's a very good point, Dana. I just don't want anyone to be caught off guard or feel like you didn't have the information ahead, just knowing that there are big conversations about what happens. That's what I have. And I just checked my email, and Leon, thank you for forwarding the policy stuff to policy committee. I see that, but I don't have anything from Mr. Lamson. So we're not going to be able to move forward with that at this time.
May I suggest we just take a pause? And somebody go down and check on him?
That would be fine. You know, we could run up and check on them. It's just those 2 lines. So, yeah.
Rather than
Rebecca, thank you.
come back.
I think it makes a lot of sense. We pause for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
I would volunteer too if I was there.
sounds like a wise plan. Trying to find
Okay, under the chair's report, has everybody received this pamphlet from the Vermont School Board Association?
Absolutely.
You get one?
Right out on the mailing list.
It's probably my PO box. I've been there a couple of
If
days.
you don't get one, you can go on VSBA.
This was set right to my house. So I changed that.
And then we put you on the mailing list, because everybody should get one. It keeps you up to date. This comes out quarterly, but weekly, they also send you an email about what's going on.
Right.
Just for your own information, this Friday, there's a regional meeting by Zoom. And all the information is on here. In our area is the Bennington County, and they do vote for 2 representatives to represent Bennington area here. Up in Montpelier, they meet once a month on a Wednesday evening usually. And I did that for 11 years, so that's a long process. So if you're interested in that program, go online when you get home, VSBA, and go Google it, and you get the address, you can communicate, so phone number, email, account, everything, will get your phone. The second thing is, the one Leon talks about a lot, is the annual conference, the VSBA annual conference. It's October 26th and 27th at Lake Mooring, and there's pages of information about what's going on, the topics, the guest speakers, all of this stuff. So, if you're interested, you can get in touch with Rebecca, and she will get your reservation set up and everything. It'll be no cost to you. The district pays for that service. And they're always educational, right? Yeah, we go a lot. There's always something you learn there when you go.
There's a regional meeting too on Thursday, isn't there?
Where you at, someone?
Thursday, Friday, 2 days.
No, the regional meeting, we
Oh, this
have,
Thursday, the 14th, yeah.
that's right, we have a regional meeting, and I don't know, I've already registered, it's on Zoom.
Yes.
So you can just register, and it's at 6 o'clock on 9/14, to be able to participate by way of Zoom. And I would just urge everybody to continually, to try to get on board and be part of that.
They usually come down here.
Yeah.
And have the meetings in person, but after COVID and everything else, I guess they figure we got the annual meeting, these things you do on.
Well, they say a little more.
I think they get better participation, quite frankly, from,
By Zoom.
you know, it's easier for folks just to log on and do it that way.
That's all I got, so.
Can I add on to that, Ken?
Yeah.
So I also did a copy of the VSBA email to members of the organization. So if you don't get the email, let me know, and I'm happy to forward it to you. I get it every week as well, or every couple of weeks, whatever comes in. And there's actually some interesting information in there. There really is, honestly. Some stuff, it doesn't apply to us, you know, as the type of district we are, but there are some interesting things in there. I'm happy to definitely read it, so.
It does give you all the different bills and topics the Senate is
Right.
discussing. So you know, if you want to contribute, you know, find one of your reps and stuff.
But if we're not getting it, something's wrong, and that's what I'm saying. All school board members get it,
Yeah.
and should be getting it.
If you're not getting it,
Emails.
let me know, because we can contact the VSB.
Right,
And
that's
get
all.
get your address on there, so.
Yeah, I get the book, PO box.
Glenn isn't on.
You're not getting it.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. It's an easy correction, we'll just email the VSBA and get you on.
Right, we're going to send the bulletin.
I don't know how long it'll take that to happen, but
Carrie can do that quickly.
yeah, she's pretty on top of
She's
stuff.
been there for years.
The only other item that's not on the agenda, but we need to discuss, is the next month's meeting, because of the way the dates fall on holiday. It falls on the 9th, which is Columbus Day. And so the recommendation from the business office, I know Rebecca ran upstairs, is what we normally do is move to the next week, which would be the 16th. That's the recommendation date for our meeting, same time and place as on the 16th versus the 9th. Where no one's going to be here. I don't know if that works for folks. For me, I'll be here and see you, so.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you, because you had said you spoke with the teachers about that crazy half-day Wednesdays on January, February, and March.
Yes.
Are we going to be able to have full days for our ones and twos during that period?
Yes. Yes.
Will there be bus transportation?
Yes. So, without getting into all the details of it, we did, before I move on, are we good to move the meeting to 16? Do you want to vote on that, or just?
No, that's
Okay, all right. So and Ken, you got a copy of this too. I did receive a response from our inquiry about the calendar that we sent to Renee Lee, it was many months ago. I don't remember the date without looking it up. It was in the early spring that we sent that off. And we did get a response from the interim secretary, Deputy Secretary Boucher, who I know well, and basically said that the superintendents of the region had to meet, set a uniform calendar going forward. Going forward as well, including the superintendent of the VRSU, even though they don't send students to us, they receive federal title money and they have to be included in the conversation about the calendars. And so going forward, there's going to have to be larger discussions about the regional calendar. For this year, because we did not get a response as quickly as we had anticipated, and I think part of that was with Secretary French-Weedman, and I was very happy to hear from Heather about it, actually. So what we did this year, to answer Ken's question directly, is all of the half-days that are related to skiing in January, February, and early March. We at Southwest Tech are running full days on those days. Students who are enrolled in our programs are expected to be here. If they're not here, they're going to be marked absent. They have provided transportation. We have support from the sending schools for that. And quite frankly, if we did not have full days on those half days, we would not have students here from Hoosick Falls or BBM, because they were not going to send their students, as you know. And I know that was not an idle threat. That was just too disruptive to their schedule. And so we still have details to iron out about what that looks like, because it's not occurring until January. But we've already talked to MAU about how it's going to work with their kids. Also with the late bus transportation provided by the SVSU, because by state statute, it's actually the sending school's responsibility to get the kids to and from the tech center. So there's more to come on that. We're also committed as a school district ourselves. If we need to transport kids home at the end of the day, we'll do it ourselves. We did it during COVID. We can manage it again. And so it seems like a very daunting task to look at, to try to manage that. I look back and I say to our staff and to myself in my head, if we can manage opening up our school and running a transportation operation and health checks and everything during COVID and serving lunches for months on end, I'm very confident we can figure out 10 days, 10 half days in a year. I know we have the capacity to do that. So long answer to your question, Ken, but yes.
But we're talking only the ones and twos, not the 9th and 10th grade, right?
The short blocks, no, they generally run in the time, because we have a new schedule this year, they generally run when we're already here even a half day, so. we
And
can start
a
over.
lot of ones and twos are older, young men and women, so they probably have a driver's license anyway.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we have to, awesome, thank you. And that's one of the things that we, as schools, as we sort of settle in here in the first few weeks, we'll have information of who drives, who takes a bus, who walks, et cetera, who needs transportation, and all those things we couldn't do until school had started and figure out who's in our classes, and get that information collected. So, more to come on that, but yeah, we'll be running.
Hoosick brings their kids and picks them up, Arlington brings their kids and picks them up.
Partly, we do some transportation for Arlington, sometimes for Hoosick.
I don't think that'll be a big deal.
Yeah. It's just, it's fitting in, it's really fitting in the students from Mount Anthony during the day when they are running a half-day schedule. We're running a full-day schedule. Well, the logistics become a little bit complicated, but we're gonna figure it out.
Why can't, I mean, going forward, why can't it be something like, those days, those half days would be special project days? In other words, an alternate curriculum for just those days.
Yeah.
That's only 10 days.
Right, yeah, we have all sorts of ideas of how we're gonna run those 10 half days. And again, when we're not here, when students aren't here for those half days, it's a lot of time missed. Like I said, in my mind, planning 10 half days is not a big deal. We run the school for another maybe once a year, so. Yeah, coming around to you is the,
Just one more
oh,
thing.
sorry.
What bothers me the most is that supposedly Arlington is part of the SDSU now. Yet, when they had a vote down in Powell about a structure that they were going to build, they had a vote of the SDSU, Arlington wasn't included. They had a vote for the accepting of the teacher's contract. Arlington has their own contract for teachers, they don't use our contract. So I don't know how they can control us with a calendar of a date, yet we have to abide by all their, it makes no sense to me at all. It's convoluted.
Well, I do know about the Powell thing. The Powell thing was a local political thing. In other words, because the money was coming from someplace, that's why it was voted on. Just for, even North Bennington didn't participate either.
How about teacher's contract?
I don't know about teachers' contract.
Someone
I
told me
do.
that Arlington teachers get paid more.
They do.
Yeah.
But it was.
They don't want anything to do with
It was
ours.
something in the melding of, that somehow or other Bennington has to come up and they should come up.
So I would be real careful about speaking along those particular lines when we don't know all of the details in terms of when it comes to a contract and who's doing what. We run the risk of creating a problem that we should be trying to get into.
Okay, Leon, I'll listen to you. Okay, now we just have a copy of the policy 3410C. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Lamson and thank you, Rebecca, was able to get this modified for you so that we can adopt this policy today. You should have a hard copy in front of you. For those that are online, I just got an electronic copy. I will forward it to you here forthwith. The changes have been made. I'll let you take a look at it briefly, and hopefully we can adopt it.
Before you finish, if I may, it's the warning date on there, which it has down there, that's the date that we wanted, even though it says the date of 6/12 and 8/14 has been reviewed. We actually wanted on 8/14/23. And that's the only other thing that needs to happen.
8/14/23, Leon.
That's what we wanted, that was,
Okay.
it says
Okay.
9, it says blank in
Oh,
there.
it's just a typo on the date warrant.
And the day is the adopted day, which is correct, so.
Okay, this is a policy that we tabled. Now we need a motion to bring it back. So moved.
Second it.
Second. Okay, any discussion on it? like you need it. Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
And those that are online, you should see it shortly. I just hit send. As long as the Ethernet takes to get around.
Okay, that's it. We have a motion, unless somebody else has something. Yes.
The only thing is the October meeting, they're called body fun, I'm sorry.
We took care of it while you were punching down policy for
What
it.
did we decide?
The 16th.
Okay, I apologize, I'm running.
Does that work for you with the finances, 16?
It does. I hope-
Are they done yet? Look at that.
I don't know. Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second it.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.